Hot on the heels of DeepSeek releasing its groundbreaking reasoning model R1, OpenAI responded with its own reasoning model, O3 Mini, and both companies have made their API available right away. In this video, I'll compare the two and see which one is actually better. So let's start with the price. Despite OpenAI's recent price reductions, DeepSeek maintains pricing at exactly half that of O1 Mini, a pricing strategy that appears deliberate rather than coincidental. The first thing you need to understand about these two APIs is they use the same OpenAI package, so it makes it really easy to switch between the two of them. And if we look at the most basic boilerplate to run a prompt on O3 Mini, to change it to DeepSeek, all we have to do is change the API key, which we'll get directly from DeepSeek, the base URL to connect to their servers, which are in China, by the way, and the model to DeepSeek_reasoner, which is the R1 model. And that's it. There are some differences in what the APIs output in terms of reasoning, but I'll get to that in a second. I put together this Flask application to test them out. I'll put the GitHub link in the description of the video if you want to use it for reference. Let's start with DeepSeek R1. And I'll put in here a riddle. 3 doctors all say Robert is their brother. Robert said he has no brothers. Who is lying? And the really cool thing about DeepSeek is it first gives you this internal reasoning, and it's really written in a really informal way and going through all the different possibilities and options and telling exactly how it got to the final solution. So you probably wouldn't want to put this in a production application, but it's really useful for figuring out how the AI thinks, so you can really understand the reasoning model better. And one great thing about the DeepSeek API that I don't see in the O3 Mini is that this reasoning content, this is when it's coming back from the streaming from the API, it gives you the reasoning content. And once all the reasoning is done streaming, then it streams out the final output of the actual answer. And I got it right in this case. It says no one is lying. The 3 doctors are Robert's sisters, so their statements are true, and Roberts truthfully states he has no brothers, which is the correct answer. And it backs it up with some facts here. And I like how it highlights the key points. O3 Mini asks exactly the same question. But like I was saying, in this case, I couldn't get the reasoning content back from the API. So if you know a way to do it, let me know. I also built a little token counting into this app, and so the total cost of this was about 40% of 1 cent. Pretty cheap, but again, the DeepSeek one was half the cost. And I found the DeepSeek answer was a bit better in the sense it told you in the final answer, it explained it a little bit better. So that was an interesting first prompt, but let's get to something a bit more useful. Let's say I want to build an AI agent that helps people build off-grid cabins. I'm going to ask both R1 and O3 Mini to give me a list of instructions and steps to build a 10 by 12 cabin in the woods, off-grid with only a wood-burning stove. And R1 gave me first the materials list and estimated cost. And the costs it gave were actually pretty accurate. But overall, I mean, it's pretty good, 8,000 to 15,000, a bit of a broad range, but that sounds about right. Then in terms of steps to build, it gave all the steps correctly in the right order, but it doesn't give a lot of detail in the actual building of it. So that part was a bit lacking. With O3 Mini, it's again started with materials list and price estimates that were actually very similar to what we saw with R1. Not much difference there, laid out basically the same way. But its step-by-step instructions were a little bit better than R1, a little bit more detail, but still not exhaustive in any way. But what really struck me in all my experiments is that the results from O3 Mini and R1 were actually very similar, which makes a lot of sense if you think about mounting evidence now that DeepSeek used OpenAI's output to train its model. They just did it in a more efficient way, which makes sense that the two would give a very similar output. But I'll have to give the verdict to DeepSeek R1 just because it's half the cost. And if you want to know how to run the DeepSeek R1 API for free, check out this video next and I'll show you how to do that. I hope you're having an amazing day. I'll talk to you in the next one.